A delight to see so many people here tonight to welcome my guest Alex Rubio for a conversation with Alex Rubio. So let's first give Alex a big welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Of course, I'm David Rubin, the Brown Foundation Curator of Contemporary Art here at SAMA, and before we begin, I'd like to ask you, if you haven't done so, to please turn off any cell phones or silence them. I hope you've had a chance to walk through our new exhibition, San Antonio Collects Contemporary. It's really thrilling to see that all this great art, international in scope, exists right here in San Antonio. We're very grateful to the Linda Pace Foundation for partnering with us in support of this exhibition. And of course, we're very grateful to all the lenders. And particularly tonight, I want to thank Sandra and Dr. Rafael Guerra for loaning a work by our guest, Alex Rubio. And a few upcoming events in conjunction with the exhibition. On April 10th, I'll be at this same time, same place. I'll be holding an artist conversation with Ross Bleckner, who will be coming here from New York. He's one of the most celebrated painters of the last 30 years, and I think you'll find a conversation with him to be very illuminating. And then on Tuesday, April 17th, which actually is the birthday of the late Linda Pace, we will be commemorating her life with remembrances of her from three of her closest friends, Jan Jarboe Russell, who is her biographer, Guillermo Nicolas, collector, and who considers Linda Pace to have been his mentor in collecting, and Riley Robinson, an artist and who for many years has been the studio director at Art Pace. And then a little later on May 29th, also a Tuesday, I'll be holding a conversation with Willie Cole, the celebrated African-American artist. Very excited about hearing what he has to say about his life and work as well. One other event coming up, not related to this exhibition, but I think will be of interest to all of you. On Friday, April 5th, the distinguished, world-renowned art historian, critic, and curator, Barbara Rose, will be giving a lecture here at 6:30 p.m., and the topic is the subject of a new book that she's working on. She will be speaking on the influence of medieval manuscripts on modern art, so I hope you'll come join us to welcome Barbara Rose to San Antonio at that time. But tonight is the night to celebrate Alex Rubio, so we're going to get right into it. If we could dim the lights. Could we dim the lights, please? And Alex, of course, you're a native of San Antonio, and we're looking here at the area where you grew up. Could you tell us who the people in the picture happen to be, and the location, and what was life like?
These are some of my favorite memories. The image at the top is a photograph of my mother, Guy Rubio, and
which
my Aunt Mary.
Which one is your mother?
My mom is on the right-hand side, and my aunt is on the left, and we're photographed here in front of my neighborhood, in front of my house. Actually, I grew up in the west side of San Antonio in the Mirasol housing projects. That was off General McMullen and El Paso Street. The images that you see of the housing projects are actually some of the units there. I would just walk outside and paint murals on the housing project walls.
You painted these murals as a child?
Yes. Actually, I was about 16 when I first started doing murals. And Juan Hernandez couldn't make it tonight. He has a board meeting, and he was my mentor. Actually, he actually discovered me when he was cruising around the neighborhood looking at new prospects for murals. He was from the organization, Community Cultural Arts Organization, which was based in the Casiano Homes housing project, about 5 or 6 blocks away from the Mirasol or the Viramende housing project. The west side is where you'll find a lot of these housing projects.
I'm going to stop just for one moment and ask him up in the booth if it's possible to put a little spotlight on me, on Alex. Somehow that wasn't done tonight, and that is usually, I think, gives us a better video. So we'll continue, and hopefully they'll
Sure.
solve that.
So Juan was driving down in the Mirasoles one day. This was 1985, and I had, gone outside my unit, and right on the side of the wall, I, was compelled to draw large scale with a can of black spray paint. So my mom was a little upset. She was warning me. She's like, "Okay, you're ready for those consequences." I go, I can't help it. I love to draw. So I did these large-scale aerosol drawings on wall, and it wasn't like the graffiti that you see, today, which is amazing color and composition. I was just doing black contour on wall. So Juan drove by and saw these large-scale drawings, and actually came by like 3 days. I was in hiding for a couple of days. I told my friends, "Hey, don't tell these guys where I live," because I thought, I was going to be in big trouble. But it turned out that a couple days later, I met Juan. I went out, and they had folders full of drawings and photographs of murals. And Juan asked me to join their program, to come out and volunteer as one of the students, as a young muralist in the Community Cultural Arts Organization. And I started doing murals there in my own neighborhood and in the surrounding housing projects in the West Side.
What about in school? Were you doing artwork in school as well?
I was in high school. I was in Art 1, Art 2, but...
Were you showing promise?
I was
mean,
drawing. I think that's how it all began, was I was really serious about drawing on paper. And most of the training that I received at that time was done out on the streets in mural programs with the Community Cultural Arts Organization. They had, Juan was an amazing painter and a great mentor, so I was put to work designing murals like about a year later. First I was just one of the students painting backdrops, and then after that he challenged me a little bit. I think that's what really helped me out, was put me to work on it as a designer. So up in the left-hand corner, you see Juan and I working on scaffolding. This was about 1986, 1987, pretty much. Actually, these were the early days when I first started working with the organization. You see Juan and I working on a mural that was down Zasamora Street. So this program got me out, away from my neighborhood. This program introduced me to Juan and my other mentors at that time. I met Anastasio Torres, who Juan and Tache, that's Anastasio, Tache, they still work for the city Office of Cultural Affairs. And I got to meet all these people at a very early age. The lower images are us retouching all these old Casiano Homes murals. That was 1986 down there on the lower left-hand corner, I believe. And the lower right-hand corner, that's me and Lisa Duck Fuentes. I met Lisa through UTSA. They did a practicum course there in the neighborhood, and I was able to meet her. She was a MFA grad and a great organizer of community youth. So I learned a lot from these guys. I think I'm still using the techniques that I learned from them today. There we are working on murals in the Menchaca courts. And
where is that located?
This is also in the West Side, Menchaca, and these housing projects no longer exist. Actually, they've all been torn down except for these murals are gone. The only remaining projects there in that area are the Alassane Apache courts near the Guadalupe Cultural Arts Center, or right beside the Guadalupe. And the Casiano Homes housing projects. The Vida Mendez have been redesigned, rebuilt, and painted over. So we lost a lot of murals along the way. Even in the Casiano Homes, you still see the housing authority, painting over a lot of the graffiti that's happening. And the reason that happens is when you take the organization out of that community, people forget, this was the early 80s. This is 1985 through 89. So people forget about, that organization. And we're really trying, actually a coalition of us got together last year, and try to organize a group of artists, community artists, to try to go back into the Casianos and restore these murals. You know, I was trained as a muralist, but I also had a lot of training in restoring a lot of these murals, working from old photographs and the original designs, actually, the original paintings.
Whoa. That's a little extreme. Now let's adjust them. At least we got the lights. That's okay, progress. Okay. I think we're okay now.
Wow.
The sunglasses.
I'm
okay.
prepared. I'm ready.
Okay, now you're in your true guise.
Yes, I'm
Okay.
great.
So you were saying?
So hopefully, you know, these murals are going to be restored. Hopefully they're going to be preserved. The Casiano Homes was my home, actually. I grew up in the Mirasoles, but I worked in the Casianos, so it's still part of, it still feels like home every time I go back there and look at these murals.
How often do you go back?
I go quite a bit, actually. Several students of mine live in that area. I met a lot of students through the San Anto Cultural Arts Organization that I've worked at. So I go by there, and you know, I'm always in contact with a lot of these guys, and they come out to my shows, or I invite them to come to my current project, you know, there at Blue Star.
Okay, who's this character in this picture?
Well, along the way, I met several characters. One of them is Vincent Valdez, and this happened because of the Community Cultural Arts Organization. One day, I had to choose a piece of art from a middle school art contest. We were doing a mural at the Esperanza Peace and Justice Center, but it was the old Esperanza that's on North Flores. It's still there, actually, and out of this pile of elementary school and middle school students, you know, this one painting really stuck out, and I was very impressed by not only just the draftsmanship, but the message in the design. And I chose this piece and checked out the back and found out that it was Vincent Valdez, and he had entered this contest. He was in middle school at that time, and I think it was Lowell Middle School. And I called his mom up and said, you know, please bring him out to the wall. We're going to be there at the Esperanza. And sure enough, he showed up one Saturday. And, you know, he was pretty kind of nervous at first. He was actually kind of scared, he told me after a while, you know, and because I was still kind of, you know, had dark glasses on. I wore black all the time. So I think he kind of freaked him out a little bit. But after he started working with me, you know, I think that I felt, you know, that I had gone through that kind of cycle, that I was discovered in the same kind of organization, you know, and I was very happy to see that this guy was a natural, definitely. A lot of these students were naturals.
What's he standing in front of there?
By this time, at that time, he was 10 years old when he came out to the wall, and it was a really cool piece. If you get a chance, go out there. There's this. The theme was peace, so there's all these rainbows and happy clouds and happy faces. And here's Vincent's design that had a Vietnam rice paddy scene with all these people in the field and American jets flying overhead. You know, so I was very impressed by, you know, that piece at an early stage. So I asked him to continue to help me out, continue to work with the organization, and invited him out to the Vietnam War Museum. In this case, this museum was located downtown San Antonio, and I was commissioned to do all the dioramas, the backdrops, and murals for that museum. So Vincent, you know, was a very dedicated, disciplined student, you know, even at that age. So I was just continued to work with that guy, and here we are.
Here we see evidence of
yeah,
that.
continuing on, and this is 1989 by then. I think he was already 11, 12 by that point. And I was commissioned for a mural at the San Fernando Cathedral by Father Virgilio Elizondo. And that was the time for me to really kind of experiment and explore my own techniques, you know. things that I had learned from the mural program, I was just kind of developing those skills. And in '89, something happened that was that still stays with me to this day. I had painted this mural. She's 12 and a half feet high by 10 feet wide, and I wasn't feeling very comfortable with the painting style. I was traditionally trained as a very traditional mural painter, very blended model techniques. So one day in the San Fernando Cathedral, I was on the scaffolding. We had duct taped this canvas on the altar. They actually took the crucifix down, and we duct taped this canvas to the altar there. And I just started hatching away at the canvas. I was frustrated because I wasn't painting the way I felt I could be painting. And all of a sudden, this line texture came out of my brush, it was almost
of
something
course,
very spiritual.
That would become a major characteristic of your style.
And I still, apply paint to canvas that way to this day, So I think I discovered something about myself that day, and it was almost very spiritual because we were in the church. It was very peaceful. Vince was with me, and we just had a really good time painting during that time. Here we are, still. Yes. Some really good old photographs of us, and here's Vincent actually trying to, as a lead artist or a muralist, you kind of want your painting to kind of look like one artist, painted this, or one artist designed this. So the lead artist, my job was to train these other students in the same technique. So here I had just learned how to do this very linear brush stroke, and Vincent is filling in some background down there. And he was a little upset that day because I wouldn't let him climb up on the scaffolding, But I think the fun part is just seeing, a young student develop. This is already several years after we had met. Soon after that, the Community Cultural Arts Organization closed down, and this was about 1989, at the time of the Virgin of Guadalupe painting. About 1990, I was asked to go into the Bexar County Jail and check out their art program. And I didn't even know there was an art program there, and had to go through the security screening, the works, Once I got into the art class, it was huge. It was this giant art program, and they had already had a series of murals on every floor in the Bexar County Jail. Nobody ever sees them unless you spend a little bit of time there. But I was able to smuggle these photographs out. I had to smuggle them out. We couldn't take photographs of the artists' faces or their hands even, or their arms because of identifying tattoos, So I smuggled out a couple of these images, and the left-hand panel, you see my core group of inmates working on mural works on the 5th floor. We had murals on every floor, actually. But this was a great way for me to break barriers with this crew. I was using what I had learned from the community cultural arts as an organizer, to break barriers between people. On the outside, these guys wouldn't even talk to each other. They're from different sides of town, they're from different gangs even. But when they're working on a collective project like a mural program, they have to communicate, and they have to, exchange ideas and just paint together,
Art brings people together.
Definitely, and it really helped me out. The officers were always telling me, Alex, that's one less inmate I have to worry about, because after they come from your art class, they're over there just drawing, they're drawing on their handkerchiefs, and they're very busy, So I also curated inmate art shows. I was able to take these handkerchief art, these paño art, out into the community. We had several exhibits, and we had quite a bit of mural work that's still there. I think after a while, a couple of the wings got painted over. So I'm hoping that program is still going on. Actually, we were the only county in Texas, pretty much at that time, that had such a large art program. It was called the Inmate Creative Art Program at the Bexar County Jail.
And now moving on, this is, you're working here with Vincent again at Burbank High School.
Yeah, this is a little later. He's a sophomore at the Burbank High School, and I was commissioned by the McElhaney Tabasco Company. They gave me a call and they said, "Hey, we're doing this, poster contest, and we'd like you to just reproduce, this poster." And I was like, "Well, I mean, anybody can just, transfer this image up there. I'd like to work with the student, the winning poster recipient." I told them over the phone, and they're like, "Hey, even better, that sounds great." I'm like, "Well, give me a little bit more money, a little bit more supplies, and we'll work on during spring break. That way I can work with the student and they can have that experience." So sure enough, they go, "Well, meet us on Saturday in front of the wall there at Burbank on the side of the gym that faces 35. So, I was there on Saturday, and I did not know they didn't tell me the winner. So Vince drives up. I can see him pulling up there, and I'm like, "What is he? What's he doing?" I just thought he was going to come hang out, or he was going to school. And I go, "Hey, he goes, "Hey, what's going on?" And I go, "Hey, well, McElhaney, contracted me to work with this student. They won this poster contest." And I go, "What are you doing?" He goes, "Well, I'm the student, And I was like, "Oh, man." He goes, "Yay, you're finally working for me now, So I was like, "All right," I'm going, good. So it was even better. It was actually not very, it was just a big surprise for us that, we're still continuing to work together.
And the subject is?
This was designed by Vincent Valdez, painted in 1994, I believe. And the design was inspired by soccer and sports because it was on the side of the gym. So we spent all spring break. He was, like I said, he's an incredibly dedicated and disciplined artist, and very inspiring for me, to see him work so hard. So we knocked this piece out in a week, actually.
And unfortunately, it was painted over recently.
It was painted over recently, a couple years ago. It was a very, serious situation where the community was very upset that one of their murals, and that's the way they describe these pieces, as it belongs to the community, the surrounding area, was just totally painted over without any notification. We were surprised, and we met with the school board. We'd met with several officers from the district, and in a way, it was fortunate that we found out about this exterior mural first, because the interior murals were at risk as well.
Right.
Vincent, during his high school career there at Burbank, painted the whole cafeteria, and it's an amazing room if you get a chance to see these.
He painted the history of rock and roll.
The history of rock and roll.
People can go to YouTube and look at my conversation with Vincent Valdez and learn more about that.
It was really amazing. So they're still there. In a way, the people that organized to preserve these murals saved the Burbank murals. So we're really happy about that.
Now let's transition into your actual, what we call the fine art, the serious artwork that you do in the studio context. And so we're in the early 1990s now.
This is 1993, and this is a still life. It's a watercolor mixed media on paper, and it's a still life of an ashtray. And I really had fun with these drawings. These were early drawings, 1993 through 4, actually 1992
Alex, when
to 4.
did you start working in a studio? I mean, you were doing all this mural work, but how did you transition into seeing yourself as an artist who also needs to spend time on your own work in a studio?
I received a grant from the Guadalupe Cultural Arts Center in 1991, I believe, and I was one of the first studio artists at the new Guadalupe Annex, which was off Salado Street, right down the street from the Bexar County Jail. So I was teaching during the day at the jail, and I was on a Texas Commission on the Arts grant, which paid for 20 hours at the jail and then 20 hours at my studio. They even paid my rent and a stipend for art supplies. So it was a great time in my life because I had my own studio, and I just walked to work, you know, right down the street. And these drawings, these first series of drawings came about during that time at the Guadalupe Annex. And I was really fortunate to get that grant in that studio because I sold a couple of my first drawings in that place, you know. I met my first art collector. I met Kathy Vargas and Miguel Cortinas at that time. And so I was already kind of introduced to the arts administration and arts organizations here.
And tell us, you're already working in a kind of psychedelic style. Why was that? Why did you sort of just start right out with really intense color and
Neon
agitated
colors,
line?
definitely. I bought a whole set of neon gouache and neon color pencils, the Prismacolor neons and neon acrylic, you know. So I just love that warm color, you know, and with my technique, it was easier to work in layers, you know, and let that neon kind of show through. Almost like a black light painting that I remember kind of growing up with, you know, all these rock and roll posters and black light.
So you were really
art.
into the rock and roll culture, and that more
Definitely,
or less affected
yeah,
your aesthetic sensibility.
And working with different materials, I think that's what happened. I was really experimenting with a lot more, like I said, gouaches and neon-based paints and stuff, you know. So it's very experimental time for me. This is 1994, Por Tu Culpa. It's mixed media on paper, 30 by 40 inches. And here I am
Tell
again.
us about the subject.
Doing a lot of research at bars, you know. And I was looking back and I was like, man, most of my early work are just bar art, you know, as bar paintings. But these were fun times, you know. I used to hang out with Miguel Cortinas. We'd go to the Esquire. This is actually drawn, sketched out at the Esquire, and it's based on a story that I happened across on Thursday night.
Were people actually posing for you, or were you
no,
just sort of?
This was real life. They didn't need to pose.
They didn't know
very
you were
dramatic
drawing them,
on their own.
They didn't know you were drawing them.
They did not know. No,
Okay.
no. You know, so
It's like taking a candid photograph, but you're doing it with your sketchbook.
Yeah. So I think I just had fun with these drawings. It was very caricature-like, very whimsical. A lot of my early work was that way.
Were you familiar with any of the artists such as Peter Saul at that point, or did you develop this independent of that?
Actually, I was not very familiar with a lot of artists. I had to research a lot of mural work, you know, so I did know a lot of those artists, but not until a little later did I really start looking at Peter Saul or looking at, you know, even I had grown up with Crumb and the
Yes.
Fabulous Furry Freak Brother comic books and stuff
Yes.
like that, so I was introduced to that kind of caricature-like
So
style.
the caricature, at least, is a little prototype there in that.
It was
Yeah.
a nice little influence, definitely. And then Luis Jimenez
Yes.
later on in life, you know, that I was able to meet him, and it was like an art star to me. I was like, wow, you know, I really admire this man and his art, you know. So I was really happy that I got to meet a lot of these artists, you know.